Well, welcome everyone to the Viva Summit. Uh, we're glad to have you here with us. Although if you're not here, I've got you covered. We're going to do some really great interviews coming up. It's going to be a super exciting time. We're going to be talking about a lot of innovations in the clinical trials industry. Um, and here I have Richard Young from Viva. Richard, perhaps you can introduce yourself.
Yeah, thank you. And first of all, Mo, thank you for taking time to speak to me. My name is Richard Young. I look after the overall clinical data strategy here at Veeva, and that means I look after the patient, the site, and the data journey across clinical trials.
Pleasure to be here.
Perfect.
Thanks so much. So, I'm curious to know, like, one of Viva's focus areas really is delivering on connected applications across R&D, right? Um, and not only R&D, but also quality, right? And how do you see this theme being highlighted in the summit? And why is it critical for advancing clinical trials and improving patient outcomes?
Definitely, it's a good question. Especially, first of all, we're about an hour and a half away from a keynote, and you can hear everything getting ramped up here. I think the first thing is the word connected. You have 3,000 people here who are coming to connect, so that's a nice start to the thing. But for me, the word connected, it has a couple of really key reasons. I'm a data manager by heart. So connecting users by experience, but connecting users through the data is vital. And user maybe is not the best word to use. It's really about every contributor and consumer of data in that whole process. So a really big focus on patients, a really big focus on the sites, enabling them to be able to do a trial in a way that makes sense. But then, of course, it's all about the data. Because at the end of the study, when everyone goes home, hopefully fit and healthy, what do we have left? Data. So it's about making sure that data will be robust and will stand up to the highest level of scrutiny and will be fit for purpose. And all of that gets wrapped together, to me, as a connected journey.
Mm-hmm. I love that answer. It is all about being connected with the sites, with the patients, with the sponsors, all in one place. Um, and I also love that you highlighted that this conference is really where we all connect too.
I think I get very emotionally connected to an analogy. If you'll bear with me, I'll share it, which is, as a data manager, what do? We solve problems. That's what we do. If you solve enough problems, you will lock a database. If you solve enough problems, you'll deliver a good clinical trial. You solve one problem, move on to the next. And what's the best way to think about that? It's about a Rubik's Cube. And there's another reason I love the Rubik's Cube. I should, by the way, freely admit, never solved the Rubik's Cube myself. Okay? Not without cheating and removing the labels. Let's save that for another day.
Join the club.
Yeah. But the reason I love a Rubik's Cube, if you hold a Rubik's Cube in your hands, you can only ever see three sides of it. And if you would allow me to say that each of the sides represents a different participant, one is a site, one's a patient, one's a data manager, one's a CRA, one's regulatory, whatever six you pick. It's important because you're trying to solve a Rubik's Cube. Every move you make, you can only see the impact on three individuals. What about the rest? It's also important to recognize you're not the only one trying to solve the Rubik's Cube. There's at least three people making moves that might negatively impact you. And if you carry on that analogy, think about something else. I'm told if you approach the point of solving a Rubik's Cube, what typically happens is you solve two opposite sides. And then what you do, you hold on to those two sides. I've got this far, I'm going to preserve those two. But it's impossible to solve the rest without sacrificing the two. And that's, I think, the other part of connected here. It's why I love the fact we're all together, because someone might have to pause. Someone might have to take a step back to let the rest of us advance. But you can't do that if you're just working in silos. You can't do that if each person makes their own decisions without coming together, without connecting. And that's why an event like this and a platform discussion is so critical.
Mm-hmm. So, Richard, Viva has been strategic about its AI partner program and integrating AI and automation into its solutions. What developments or discussions around smart automation are you most excited to see at the summit this year? And how do you think they will impact the life sciences industry?
There's a couple of things. First of all, the AI hype loop, it probably peaks in the last 12 months. I think there's a real risk there's some disappointments. Yeah. I think that makes me reflect backwards to this time last year, where we made a very strong decision. AI is not where we're going to really invest today. We're going to wait. That was a good decision. But we also made that decision with a second decision. We're going to invest massively to enable AI and automation. I don't want anyone out there to think of is that we're just not investing at all. We put a huge amount of effort into delivering the data APIs, the study file formats. Why do we do that? So that whatever innovative experiments you want to try, they're enabled. We will not be the rate limiter to your innovation. If I had picked one or two AI concepts, we would have been that rate limiter. So I think that massive investment in the data infrastructure was critical.
Mm-hmm.
But also automation is a critical word, and you're going to hear that throughout the conference. I look at what people are trying to achieve with AI or under an AI umbrella, and whether it's to be 20% faster or 10% less expensive, or whatever the goal is, I question whether AI is the way to get there. I look at things that we're experiencing here in data management about cleaning all of your data. Well, we're seeing customers who will stand up over the next 2 days and say, we're 20% faster, we're 40% faster. There's no AI in that. It's just automation. It's clever thinking through the process, connecting user A with connector B in a better way.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we're 50% faster.
Mm-hmm.
In a couple of cases, protocol amendments, we're 90% faster. No AI being used. Now, there's an opportunity to go from 90 to 99% then. But if your goal is to be 5% faster, 10% faster, we're already doing that through automation.
Mm-hmm.
I also think one last thing I'll say there is within clinical data, we have to think about receiving data, cleaning it, processing it, preparing it better. But to be the best data manager in the world, you can't just stay in your own four walls. I look left to operations, I look right to safety, I look up to sites, I look somewhere else to stats. You have to form those connections and optimize those journeys as well.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing, just making data available gets you a long way forward. But then you start to build clever little solutions onto that. They're not AI. I wouldn't call them AI. They're just automations that deliver massive value. Again, double-digit percentage reductions in time, effort, and cost.
Yeah.
That's not to be sniffed at.
And that's the difference, I think, between AI and automation. Automation is basically a guaranteed outcome. There's no hallucination. There's no questionable results that may come out of AI, which can decide to do one thing with one prompt and something completely different with the same prompt, right? So what do you think about pushing innovation too fast in the clinical trials industry?
Oh, I'm not sure you can push it too fast, if I'm honest. I'd love to push it faster and faster.
Mm-hmm.
However, let's be honest, we're a very conservative we're a very conservative industry for a very good reason. There's a lot at stake here. And so I think it's about appropriate risk and appropriate innovation. We use the phrase pragmatic. And actually, I like that for two reasons. One, pragmatic installs the belief it should return value. It should be something you can easily adopt and demonstrate it was the right decision quickly. But it also leans into the newer FDA initiative of pragmatic trials.
Mm-hmm.
Flexible in design, flexible in execution. The word pragmatic and flexible don't always fit in the same sentence very comfortably. They do now. They have to. And that's where I think automation can really push us.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the things we talk a lot about to customers and prospects here is don't let the past inhibit your future.
Mm-hmm.
You can hold on to what you've always done, and you'll be the one holding on to the two sides of the Rubik's Cube, and that's as good as you'll ever be. You have to be prepared to let go, and that's what innovation is all about. But successful innovation is something you can see a way to adopt, and you can feel it's right. If you don't see that and you don't feel it, you won't do it.
And my last question to you, Richard, involves site collaboration, right? Improving collaboration between the sites and the sponsors really is a big theme here at Veeva. And really, you guys have been championing this. What are you looking forward to in terms of new insights or innovations at the summit that could sort of further enhance these collaborations and accelerate the time to market for new therapies?
I think there's a couple of things there. The first thing is, I think there are 60 sites here.
Mm-hmm.
That's new territory for us, which is great. We have dedicated streams to sites. We've barely started that process, and we already have 60 sites here. That's great. We have sessions with people like Brad Hightower. These are people with very strong opinions and a strong listener base as well. So we want to be talking to them and listen. I think that's the biggest thing here is let's listen. I want to hear what you're saying. I want to put some ideas out there, and I want you to beat them up. I don't want you to just tell me it's a great idea if you don't agree, because this is what we're going to deliver. So come and beat us up. That's perfect. I think the other part of that is we're presenting to sites, they're presenting to us, and who's in the audience? The CROs and the sponsors. You can see a lot of previous thinking being dispelled. What we assumed, and let's underline that word, what we assumed was right is actually wrong. You don't find that out unless you're prepared to ask the question and listen. And that's what we're going to do a lot of is listen. But you give sites, I won't call it a soapbox, but you give them a microphone and you let them use it. And then it's our duty is to listen. We don't have to agree, but we listen and then we understand and then we'll hopefully come back with better ideas.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's going to be a super exciting thing here. We also coined a phrase. In fact, I shouldn't say we coined it. I have to say I ruthlessly stole it from one of my customers. Never discuss the patient without the patient in the room, and never discuss sites without sites in them. Mm-hmm. So we're living that. There are patients here, there are sites here. Mm-hmm. That is a massive part of what we're trying to do.
And what would you see the benefits? I mean, sites are the ones really on the ground, doing all the work, facing all the hardships, you know, working at CROs, somewhat close to that. But then you oftentimes get that disconnect between the sponsor, the CRO, and the sites. So what are the real big benefits of listening to those sites?
So we talked about lots of people want us to be fast, to do things quicker, reduce the white space in a trial. Well, if you design a protocol, I know exactly how long a patient's going to be in that study. And there's nothing I can do about that. So what can I do to reduce the time it takes? I can make startup faster, or I can make closeout faster. Closeout, I can go from 12 weeks to 4 weeks to a day. That's great. But startup, I can go from months to days. That's where you really want to put it. And who really controls that in so many ways? It's sites. If the sites don't buy into what you're doing, if you're not their chosen sponsor, if you're not the sponsor of choice, if you're not the technology of choice, there's always going to be a friction, there's always going to be a reluctance. I need to get rid of that. And so I need to talk to patients in a very different way. E-consent is one of those things that allows me to reach out in a different way. Allow us to bring patients in not by making them come to the trial, but by bringing the trial to them. What if you could do research at home? What if you didn't have to travel hundreds of miles to participate? That has a big effect on sites. Now you're changing their dynamics, their workload. Those two things have to come together in a really clever way that allows people to think differently and operate differently, but to do things together. Mm-hmm. That's important. Because let's be honest, as you said, where does research happen? It happens when a doctor talks to a patient.
Yep.
We have to preserve that at all costs.
Mm-hmm. Is there anything else that you're super excited about at this conference?
I think probably for me, a data manager, I'm always going to be biased, okay? The biggest thing for me is this is a clinical data coming out party. You know, historically, as data managers, we've talked about individual tools, EDC, we've talked about other individual applications. We're not doing that anymore. This is a truly connected journey. This is where you start to retool an industry and transform not just the first time use of data, but secondary and tertiary uses of data. And please, don't let anyone think that means we're finished. I'm not sat here saying I've solved all the problems. The Rubik's Cube is still in a varied state. But there is a blueprint now. I understand, and we understand as a company, how to transform. We also know how to enable our partners to finish other journeys that we're not going to invest in. And that's the critical piece. Partner with an industry doesn't just mean build a tool. It means build a tool that your partners and your customers can use. That's what we're trying to do.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you so much for this super insightful interview, Richard.
Thank you.
And we're looking forward to continuing our conference coverage here at Veeva Summit. Thank you again, Richard.
Thank you very much for me.
We're looking forward to providing you with more information. So stay tight. and keep your ears and eyes open for more posts.
Thank you.